Number 10. Some of these you're going to be like, you dude, what are you talking about? Okay, number 10. You threw down the gauntlet and is like, let's rank our top 10 albums from the 1990s. You have your list, I have my list, but we're throwing a little kink in the mix here. And that is, we also both feel pretty confident that we could guess, that we know each other so well, that we could guess each other's top 10 lists. Now, I know that you prepared my top 10. I have your top 10. There's one thing I think that could trip you up a little bit, which is if you asked me in 1999 to give you my 10 favorite albums of the 90s, it would not look like my list today, because some of the entries in my list are albums that I didn't know about in the 90s, but now I do, and I love them. If anything trips you up, I think that's what's going to do it. Now, for me, I had to take a gamble on you and be like, are you going to do multiples? Are you going to have the same band having 2 albums on the list or not? Now, I banked on at least one situation where you're going to have 2 albums from the same band. That's my gamble. How are you feeling about guessing my list?
Okay. I feel terrible about guessing your list now.
I just completely shattered your confidence.
Well, I still believe in my top 5.
Okay.
And even maybe a couple of my ringers, but I'm sure I'm going to miss several now. I'll tell you this. I think I made an effort not to double up. Only one artist, only one entry per artist on my list. Okay, I want to guess your list first.
Let's do it. Go for it.
Okay, I'm guessing. Here's
what. Are you doing the order too? Are you like going so far as to go the order?
Yeah,
wow.
Sure. Why not? Well,
wow.
I'm just reading down my list, but here's how I think Seth's list will look. His number 1 album of the 90s is OK Computer. His second one is Odelay, is number 2. Number 3 is Park Life.
Okay.
Number 4 is Fashion Nugget. Number 5 is Perennial Favorites.
Wow.
Number 6 is Crooked Rain by Pavement.
Wow.
Just a guess. I don't know.
Wow.
I thought maybe you would have Ill Communication by the Beastie Boys. I'm guessing your next number 8 on your list is the Blue Album by Weezer. Maybe the Affinity from what 13-year-old Seth thought about that album made it stay on your list. That's as far as I got. So I'm going to guess from what you said earlier. I'm like, okay, let me go see. Did the Talking Heads or New Order have an album out in the 90s? Because let me guess those albums.
So that's funny. Okay, here's my thing, which is I thought you might have had 2 Radiohead albums. And I thought, okay, if that's the case, then it's going to be OK Computer and the Bins. But knowing that, I can't change it now. It's locked in. I wrote it down, which means it's official, and I can't change it. But number 1 on your list is definitely OK Computer. I was put number 2 as Mutations, and I put number 3 as the Blur self-titled album. I had Nevermind next on yours. I had Verses on your list. Had the Bins, like I said, but I don't think that's the case now. I had the Blue Album on your list. I had Jar of Flies on your list. Story of the Ghost and Doggy Style. Those were the albums that I thought, okay, I could probably at least get 6 or 7 out of 10 out of this one. But I don't know now. Now my confidence is also waning as we talk about this.
I'm going to tell you did pretty well. You
did
pretty well. Yeah.
Good.
You did pretty well.
You also named some that you mentioned it, and I was like, damn, that wasn't, because I did this list, and the first, it's funny, like the first 5 came very easily. And then like 6 through 10 had a lot of revisions. And like, for example, I'll just spoil it. Crooked Rain was in my list and then it came out of my list and it was like a back and forth. We're in the ballpark at least on a lot of these. I think one way to do this would be to do 10 through 6. Uh, let's see. You
I
guessed
love
mine
it.
first, right? So
Yes,
I'll do my 10 through 6. You can do your 10 through 6, and then we'll do our top fives.
I love it.
Okay. Number 10. Some of these you're going to be like, fuck you, dude. What are you talking about? Okay. Number 10. Aphex Twin, Selected Ambient Works Volume 2. There's the first one that you're going to be like, what are you talking about? That helped really get me into electronic music. Didn't know about it at the time, found it later. Probably found it like 2003, 2004. Number 9, Pinkerton, Weezer.
Shoot.
I didn't do doubles, but at one point the Blue Album was in there, and then it came out and Pinkerton went in, so it's like you were kind of on the money there. Next, number 8 for me, Nirvana Unplugged, Nirvana. Here's another one you're gonna be like, come on, bro. Number 7 for me is Souvlaki by Slowdive. Just a band that we never talked about at all. You would have no idea that I like that album so much, but it's this shoegaze album that I really fell hard for about, I don't know, 15 years ago. And then let's see where that was number 7, right? Number 6 is Enter the Wu-Tang, baby, Wu-Tang Clan. Their
Nice.
debut. Absolutely love that
Yes.
one.
I love it. I Pinkerton, man, what was I thinking? Because we've always said that man, we like Pinkerton even better, which is why I'm so happy. And you know me so well that you knew Versus was going to be on this list
I knew it.
because most people would say 10, right?
Right.
But no, Versus is better than 10.
And so that when we get to Nirvana, that messed me up because I was like, he could be. I was like, Shoosh. I think I'm Bleach. I was like, is Bleach 89? Like I couldn't even remember. But I was like, would he put Bleach above Nevermind? He might put In Utero above Nevermind. So that one kind of messed me up. But anyway, don't
Well,
want to take you
we'll
off
get to
messenger.
that. Okay, here is Josh's top 10 albums of the 90s. I think I looked at my list as more what has been my affinity for this list from the last 30 years
So not just at the
versus
time.
not just at the time, but also not just 44-year-old Josh. I'm thinking
Right.
about some of these are probably not still my top 10 favorites, and I've
Mm,
got new favorites, but I'm thinking, I've not liked them as long as some of these others, so they didn't make
yeah.
my list. So all of every album on my list would probably be considered in the rock genre, even though there's some great hip hop that came out in this decade. So anyway, without further ado, number 10, Where Have All the Merrymakers Gone by Harvey
Why did I not
Danger.
guess that? How did I miss
I
that?
could not leave this one off the list. This
Mm.
one has just been a staple for me for the last 30 years. I just love this one. And then number 9, Versus Pearl Jam. I listened to this album, I want to say 6 months ago, 8 months ago, while driving to Lexington, and I could not stop seat dancing, playing drums on the steering wheel. I was about to tear my car up listening to this album. It's so much energy. This album is just energy to the max. I love Verses. Number 8, the self-titled album from Ben Folds 5.
All right.
Number 7, hate the length of the album title. Almost left it off my list because there's too many words. Tiny Music dot 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 songs from the Vatican gift shop.
Mm.
Stone Temple Pilots had to make my list. Narrowing it down, which album? I love all their albums so much. Which one is my favorite? I landed on Tiny Music. That takes us to number 6. Seth got it right. Nevermind from Nirvana. Dude, this album still hits. It was so important. I wore this album out. I was listening to this album in my Walkman the first time I ever rode in an airplane. I mean, this is just so many memories tied to this album. I'd listened to this over and over as a kid. Still like it today.
Okay, this is great. And I just fell asleep at the wheel on a few of these. Like, yeah, Ben Folds 5. What was I thinking? Of course, an STP. Of course, you're going to have those guys in there. I know how much you love them. I love those too. But I think that maybe now we go through our top 5. We can always bounce it back and forth. I'll do my number 5. You do your number 5. So, number 5 for me on my list, Odelay by Beck.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and that's the thing. Beck has to. I did not do doubles intentionally because it just made my list way more complicated if I had to make those types of decisions versus than just because there are some artists on our list that if I allowed doubles, they might have two. When I kind of want a little bit of variety in there, but so if I'm doing one Beck, I think I'm going to go for Odelay. The impact it had on me at the time, the massive success that album is. I actually think that some of Beck's other albums are more consistent for me. In a way, Mutations is more consistent for me. Odelay is wild and it takes you on a journey, but the peaks of Odelay are what get me. Like the highs of that album are just so good. So that's my number 5.
I knew that was making your list. I thought it might even be as high as number 2. I just knew how important that album is to you. Number 5 is an album that's is equally as important to me. Just an album that I will never get tired of listening to, and it's another album of just genre bending, otherworldly, take you to another time and space. That's perennial favorites by Squirrel Nut Zippers.
Dude, that album is something that we wore out. I still love that album. Yeah. Okay. Number 4 for me. After Odelay, we get into this is a more recent one. Did not know about this in the 90s, but I have become obsessed with Fugazi. So I went with their album End Hits, and I could have picked 3 other albums from the 90s that they had, but End Hits is one that I keep returning to. It's experimental a little bit for Fugazi, and just such a special album that I've totally gotten into. I'm so obsessed with this band, and I had to include them on the list. So that's how much they've made an impact on me. Is they've completely overtaken part of my brain. If you were to open it up, there would just be like a section that's just like Fugazi.
I have to check them out. I know
Yeah,
you've been in my ear about checking them out. I have no frame of reference as of right now, but with this high praise, I've got to check them out.
absolutely.
Okay, number 4 for me, staple fashion nugget
Hmm.
Cake. I mean, come on, this is
Can't
one of
believe I
those
missed that one.
albums. So many the great musicians being in a band together in this perfect time and space, coming up with this great piece of work that just, you know 30 years later still sounds modern and hip and fresh.
It is near and dear to my heart too. It is. I think when we talked about it, I called it like a warm blanket. It's that type of album. I still love this album, start to finish. It is like damn near perfect. And yeah, wow, great choice. Number 3 for me. You know how I feel about Pulp. Pulp, one of my
Oh my
all-time favorites.
gosh.
And picking the Pulp album to go with is difficult, but I got it down to 2, and I ended up going with This Is Hardcore. I found that album. And it might have been Jay. It might have been our friend Jay that found it. But once I heard the song This Is Hardcore, I was immediately taken with it. And then over the years, I got into the other, and I was like, oh, I like these 3 songs on the album. And now I'm just like, start to finish, completely obsessed with This Is Hardcore. I've never heard any other album like it. Is my favorite. Pulp has another great one called Different Class that's a little bit more accessible, a little bit poppier, a little bit easier to wrap your head around. But This Is Hardcore has just always, it's never left my mind since I first heard that song back in whatever 97, 98 probably.
How did I forget about Pulp? I know that you're such a huge fan. I should have known they would have made your list. And that's another one where I know a couple songs, but haven't spent a lot of time with. And you've been urging me to for several years now. I'm going to have to make time for that one. Number three, one I know you'll not argue with me. One we have discussed on here, one of our first discussions. You were so close. Right band, wrong album. The Great Escape by Blur.
Mm, gosh, I
You
should
even
have
had
guessed The
them.
Great
You even
Escape.
had them number three, but you picked self-titled. But it was The Great Escape.
Wow. Yeah, I should have guessed that. And that's one of the reasons I picked that. It was our very first episode was talking about The Great Escape. And one of the reasons that I picked it was because I knew how much you loved it. And I know how much I loved it. And I know how much people sleep on that album. And it's absolutely incredible. That's a fantastic choice. Number 2 on my list, Blur, Parklife. The hardest thing about this decision, good call. The hardest thing was like, which Blur album, right? Like, could have been The Great Escape, could have been self-titled. I love all those albums. I mean, at this point, even though I didn't know Modern Life is Rubbish that much in the 90s, I've now grown to absolutely love that album. Or 13, it's like you could pick your poison here, but ultimately I think that Park Life is just like sort of the quintessential Blur album in a way, even though some days I like self-titled more. So yeah, that's my number 2. What about you?
I thought you would choose Park Life because that was the one where when you came back from Europe that you had where you were just like, dude, you've
Yeah,
got to listen to this. I feel like that was the one that first sunk, the first Blur album that sunk its teeth into you where you were like, this is a band that we've got to see what they're all about.
100%. It's the one that I fell in love with Blur through Park Life.
And my number 2, you got exactly right. Mutations by Beck. I just, when Odelay came out, I was still trying to figure out what Beck was all about. And it was like, okay, I like some of it, I think, but I don't know if I'm fully on board. And then you were just playing Odelay all the time. And you were telling me how Beck had a new album coming out, and we were like highly anticipating it. And I remember seeing a performance on Saturday Night Live where I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And uh when I got that album when it first came out, and just I remember starting the first track and never took it out since. It was like this is exactly what I crave and what I like, and it still sounds just as good today as it did, uh, you know, 27 years ago or whenever it came out.
That one is another one that we talked about pretty early on in this channel, and I knew that it would be up there for you because I think when we talked about it, I knew it was your favorite Beck album, and I know how much you love Beck. And it's like Beck. I know what's topping your chart. You know what's topping my chart, but I know beyond that, like who's right there next to that. And I was like, it's gonna be Beck, and if it's gonna be Beck, it's gonna be Mutations. So that's how I knew that one. And then I forgot I skipped over the fact that we talked about Ben Folds' self-titled debut, but that was another one that we've also talked about too. And the next one on our list for me, number 1, and I'd be just shocked if this were not your number 1 too, is an album that we've got coming up, but we're going to talk about this soon, buddy. This is on our list of to-dos. And I
Yeah,
can't wait to talk about, gosh, I don't know. We'll get into it at the time, but my favorite album of the 90s, up there for my favorite album ever by
ever.
anyone on the face of the planet, which is OK Computer by Radiohead. Dude, what do you say? We've got a lot to say about this album, and I'll just save most of it for that. Other than you're spot on in my pick, and I'd be shocked if you dropped like another any other album or band on me right now.
No, obviously, OK Computer, my number one also. When I tell people about OK Computer, or I explain it to people in the way is, think about the first time you saw Pulp Fiction, or take the first, or insert the first movie where you were just like shock, shock, but also like cool, like change everything you thought about the way a movie or a song could be written. And that's how I felt about OK Computer, and it almost became like, not became it. I mean, it's what it is to me. It's almost like it's a rock album that also becomes spiritual, or
Mm,
becomes larger than just a piece of music. And I don't know how to explain why it happens. I'm sure other people have the similar experience with OK Computer. Um, and I'm sure lots of people have other albums that they could insert there, different albums than OK Computer. But for me, it's OK Computer. That's what changed everything when I heard it. And it's like a warm blanket, like you said about Fashion Nugget. It's like I would never. It's like the movie Sweet Home Alabama for my wife. If we're cruising the channels and that's on, there's no way my wife's not stopping to watch that movie.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
same is OK Computer with me. If a track comes on, we're listening to that, and then we have to pick it up and listen to the rest of the album
yeah.
after we've heard that track, because now we're in a mindset that we have to hear all the tracks. So, OK Computer, just a musical achievement beyond my simple words and explanation.
The thing I always think about OK Computers that just changed the way I heard music. And sometimes, so recently we did a best of 2025 list, and I had on some of our friends to talk about it. And we were talking about an album that just came out from a band named Geese called Getting Killed. And it's really popping off right now. And for a lot of younger people, it's an album that's probably this album that came out at a time when their minds were ready to be molded by something. And it's this perfect intersection of being at the right age when this specific thing came out. And I'm sure throughout musical history, whether it's the White Album or Abbey Road or Dark Side of the Moon, or what you pick it, Led Zeppelin 4 or whatever. You take a look at all of these things, and it's like the right place, the right time. That was OK Computer. I feel lucky that my brain was ripe for the picking, and that album was the album that came out that was the one that became like my forever album. And just like today, if maybe it's Getting Killed by Geese for somebody who's 16 or 17, and there's a special album comes out at this formative time in their lives, and that's what this album was. I can't wait to do a deep dive into that and talk about it with you. So I know that that's coming. I also got to say, okay, before we wrap up here, I immediately have feelings of guilt when you read off your list of things that I did not include, like perennial favorites, like Fashion Nugget, even like Tiny Music. Like those albums are very special albums to me. And you think like, now you start to feel bad about things that you left off. I'm not even going to go into my very long list of honorable mentions because it's a long list and it's almost cheating for me to try to shoehorn those in right now. So I'm not going to touch it. That my list is what it is, but I have to say that I love your list, and it has some of my all-time favorites that if you ask me on a different day, my list might look a little different, and it would probably include a lot of the albums that you chose. So good work on the list. I don't know if you have any similar feelings of like talking through things and you're like, damn, I should have included this or that, but it's really hard to do this exercise.
Yeah, I felt bad when our subject was top albums of the decade, and I pretty much just stayed in one genre that felt kind of lame and closed-minded. But at that time, at in the 90s, at that age, I was very stuck on a different area or a certain area where it's like, this is what I like, this is what I'm identifying with. And so those were definitely my favorites, although now when I revisit um other genres, there are some albums that I think were super important and very uh well, very important, and achieved a lot in other areas that we left off the list. But this is kind of, you said these albums became our forever albums. These are albums that just meant so much to us, you can't leave them off the list. And yeah, I've got some great honorable mentions that I could mention too, but I guess why diminish our awesome top 10 by
Yeah.
just mentioning everything we liked.
Dude, this is so much fun. And again, and I know our memories too. If you asked us 2 years from now, like do a top 10 list, we first of all would forget that we'd done this. And I'm sure our list would probably look a little different. It's just the nature of doing something like this, but it's a lot of fun to go back in the time machine and to think about what albums are important. This has been so much fun. We want to obviously hear what anybody is watching or listening to this, what their top albums of the 1990s are. Were they your top albums then? Are they your top albums now? What changed over the years? Definitely want to hear from people about that. If you like this, then please give us a like, give us subscribe on the YouTube channel, or if you're in podcast land, follow us and keep posted with our next deep dive into like the nerdy stuff that we like to do, which is talk about albums or make our favorite lists. And if you have suggestions, we want to hear about that too. This has been fun, man. Thanks for suggesting this topic. I had a lot of fun putting this list together, and guessing yours was a lot of fun too.
This was fun. This was the first list we've compiled where I had to actually narrow things down, besides of really wreck my brain to come up with more. So this was fun.